History of Aviation podcast with Derrick, Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.
Hello and welcome to the History of Aviation podcast, the podcast series where we discuss historic aircraft. I'm Derrick Beeler, and I'm joined by co-hosts David Rowe and Dave Gorman. In this episode 29, we'll be discussing the Eurocopter MH-65 Dolphin. The Eurocopter MH-65 Dolphin is a twin-engine helicopter operated by the U.S. Coast Guard. From his studio near Bristol, Tennessee, Mr. David Rowe. How you doing, David?
Things are really good around here. It's been a wonderful week or so for me, both personally and on the airplane end. We'll start with family first. My daughter is back at college. We just moved her into her dorm, so she's starting her sophomore year of schooling this week. So she's gone. She's out and living her life. And my son, who just graduated from college, has just started his first job today. So you'll like this, Dave. He is assistant teacher at the Bristol, Tennessee schools. So he's assistant teaching.
Well, that's fantastic, and congratulations to him. I know you're proud, but I know he feels good about that too. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. He seemed to have a good day today. So, got some good news for the kids. And then on the personal side with aviation, we've got a B-29 Superfortress in Knoxville. So I made the trip down Saturday and watched it fly a couple of times. Got some really great video that I'm putting together, and got to see a Hercules, a couple of soda tankers, and a Goshawk fighter trainer flew in. So it was a really good Saturday. And then Sunday evening, an Apache helicopter and a Black Hawk show up at my local airport. So this morning, I spent the morning at the airport filming the Apache and the Black Hawk departing. So I've got another great video coming of an Apache startup and departure and a Black Hawk startup and departure. So things are really good on my end.
Good deal. From his studio in Knoxville, Tennessee, Mr. Dave Gorman. How you doing, Dave?
What's happening, Derrick? Hey, David.
Greetings.
Good to see everybody. Things are good. It is awful nice when the airplanes come to you, isn't it, Dave? Now,
Much
again,
easier.
You did have to come down the road a little piece to see the B-29, but you didn't have to go up to Dayton or over to Charlotte or something to see it. So sure has been nice to have it here for a couple of days, and I know it's been a lot of flying, a lot of opportunities, prices right. Big, huge crowds, and we really appreciate the the folks bringing Doc out here to spend some time with us, because I've seen Doc up in Oshkosh, and I sure love to see her up there. But when they come to you, it sure is great. So thank you for taking care of the aviation lovers of this part of the country too. So that was great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Things are good though. School is up and running, and into our starting our fourth week with kids. We've got in-service day tomorrow because it's election day in the local elections. So the kids were all disappointed that they only have to come to school for 4 days this week. But teachers have an in-service day, so no rest for us, I guess, as far as that goes. But again, that's fantastic for Matt. And if they make the kids go back to school, he has to go back too. So I'm sure he'll have a great year. I look forward to hearing some stories about it.
You and me both. It's interesting. 6th grade. He's helping out in the 6th grade, 6th and 7th grade.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know a little bit about those grades, so good for him.
I thought so.
From his studio in Alcoa, Tennessee, we have Derrick Beeler. Derrick, how you been, buddy?
Oh, everything is going wonderful. The rental business at McGhee Tyson Airport is booming, as always, this time of year. And like you guys both were talking about, and we spoke before we came on air about Doc. I was by 3 times where Doc is still setting, and still folks out taking pictures. And I tell you, I drove by 3 times a day, and it's more than you can take in, honestly.
It's a pretty bird, really pretty plane.
It is a very pretty bird.
Well, we got used to for so long just thinking there were only only one that we were ever going to see fly in our lifetime, and that was Fifi. There are some other ones that might potentially be put back into the air. I know that Kermit Weeks down in Florida has one that is supposedly got all the pieces there, whether it's got engines that can pull it through the air or not. I'm not familiar with. Bruce, I'm sure, could chime in and tell us if he were here.
If he were here.
If he were here. But, that the idea that there was a plane that had long-term restoration, the folks who put Doc back together in, was it Wichita, David? Is that right?
Correct. Yep. Wichita, Kansas.
A lot of those folks had some personal history working for Boeing back in the day. And so they had a real connection to this aircraft and its history. And so a labor of love, as I like to say. And the first time we saw it fly is, so shiny and beautiful. And you're just like, I can't believe it. And then, it's done some flights with Fifi. So there've been 2 B-29s in the same airspace. That's a whole lot of wing. That's a lot of plane up in the sky at once, but it's pretty fantastic. So,
yeah, love seeing it. Absolutely love to see it.
Now, definitely. You said, David, that you did pick up some merch. They had some good things there.
Oh, absolutely. Some really nice challenge coins and patches. That B-29 was part of a radar group that tested radars and things. So it was not an actual bomber per se. It didn't have the turrets on it for the guns or anything like that. But they've got the actual unit patch that plane flew under. So you can actually get the patch as a challenge coin. They had poker chips, hats, T-shirts, posters. I mean, there was pins. There was really a lot of great things that you could pick up and help support that aircraft. That's one of the things I always try to do is, buy a few things from the souvenirs just because Absolutely. I like souvenirs. And plus, give them some a little cash to work with because those planes are expensive to restore and fly.
Well, I've got a Doc little keychain that I have on my camera bag, and I hear they even have keychains with the little remove before flight thing that you could buy and hang somewhere. So all kinds of things like that. So
yep, absolutely.
Again, it's great that they came to town.
Definitely. And the aircraft that we're covering today, guys, the MH-65 Dolphin.
This large orange helicopter, that's typically how you're going to see this thing. If you ever see it far inland, you're like, what is the Coast Guard doing here? But they have come into Knoxville before. They do get inland quite a ways sometimes, and training and all that kind of stuff. It's a big helicopter. It's a cool looking helicopter. And there's a new vocabulary word tonight, kids. Fenestron that we're going to talk about. So
exactly.
What is that thing? We're gonna review that tonight, I guess, huh?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the Dolphin has made an appearance at my airport here in East Tennessee at Tri-Cities, and that was about 2 years ago. Just showed up on the radar, and I ran out and got lucky and got some video of it starting up and departing. So I'll post a link to that video so everybody can see one in action because they do. This helicopter sounds a little bit different because of exactly that Fenestron tail rotor, where it's enclosed. It has a different whine than a typical helicopter with an open air tail rotor. So it's an interesting plane to look at because it doesn't match what we're typically used to seeing. So, but it's very efficient.
Yeah, that bright orange color is unusual, but also the arrangement with the tail rotor is something that definitely catches your eye and makes you wonder what the heck is that thing. So,
well, I actually like the look of this aircraft. It's very sleek. It's compact. It's very well put together. It pleases my eye when I see it. It's not, big and bulky. It's not got lots and lots of things hanging off of it. It's just, it's pretty neat. It's well put together. It's a French design. As a matter of fact, Aerospatiale was the originator of the aircraft. They built these in France starting in 1975. And the Coast Guard decided in 1979 that they liked this aircraft and wanted to, incorporate it into the Coast Guard. So they started purchasing it's a Dolphin in French. It's a Dolphin in the United States. So a little name different depending on where you're from, but it's basically a Dolphin is the name.
Well, that's appropriate because, again, in service for in our country, the user that is most well known for using this helicopter is the Coast Guard.
Absolutely. Search and rescue. This is a short range helicopter, which is something I didn't really realize that it's typically used for short range. It's only got about a 3-hour flight envelope. So it stays close to shore and does those quick out and back type missions and leaves the longer ones for the Jayhawks, which are Black Hawks, similar type. So if it's long range, it's a Jayhawk. If it's a short range, it's this Dolphin aircraft. So 3-hour loiter time out and back.
So, and these are often based at Coast Guard stations that are, of course, inland a little bit or along the coast, but they're stationed on land, although they can go out to sea aboard ship. But typically these are land-based helicopters that are sent out on patrol or search and rescue type missions, right?
That's correct. The Coast Guard has about, I think it was 17 cities on the Atlantic, Pacific, Gulf of Mexico, Hawaii, and the Great Lakes. So, anywhere there's a large body of water, that's where the Coast Guard typically is. So yeah, they pretty much cover all around the United States. And, but yeah, mostly on land. They do fly from some of the Coast Guard cutters. That's one of the reasons this is a good plane aircraft is that the helicopter's small enough to fit on their Coast Guard cutters. That's probably one of the reasons it was picked is because it's not an oversized aircraft. It's just the right size. Which actually I was reading, that's one of the drawbacks of the Dolphin is that it's got a 4-man crew, 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and a rescue swimmer. So after that, there's not a lot of room for multiple people. So if they are doing a rescue, it's only got about a 4,000-pound payload. So you can't really load, 8 or 10 people into this helicopter. It's just not designed for that. It's for the, 1 or 2 people, quick out and back type situations. And again, landing on the cutter, they can go out. Another thing that on a ship, it can do icebreakers, and it works as the eyes for an icebreaker. It can fly out over the horizon a little ways and pick out lanes for the ship to actually break ice in. So there's a couple of uses from the shipboard is not only search and rescue from a cutter, but also ice breaking.
So it's a lot of choreography with the ship's captain and crew, just kind of determining, what they're looking for, coordinating the path that they might take through the ice, like you say, but also with searching, maybe in coordination with Coast Guard C-130s, trying to pick up beacon signals and sightings and things like that. Coast Guard aircraft always have powerful spotlights. That's a big part of the job that they do. Do you have any information about that?
Not about a big, powerful spotlight, no, but maybe you do.
Well, I was actually hoping that you were gonna have that for me. I could already hear Bruce laughing now because I assumed with your encyclopedic knowledge that perhaps you'd found something about that, but. With that search and rescue type of job that it does, that's something that being able to locate. I'm looking here for it. I thought I saw something about this beacon that it has. I'm going to keep looking for that. It might be an addendum in a note once we get this thing posted.
Yeah.
Hey,
okay.
My face is nearly the same color as the helicopter. Fantastic.
Well, one of the things that on that search and rescue aspect of it, one of the things that this helicopter is capable of doing is it has an autopilot situation where you can program search patterns into the helicopter's computer and you can sort of fly hands off. so that the pilot and the co-pilot can keep their eyes on the water or land. I mean, this helicopter can also fly, in mountainous terrain, and it's capable of mountain to sea, so it's anywhere in between. But it can fly predetermined routes so that the eyes are out looking, which is really interesting. That's one of the features that they incorporated into the system. One of the other things that it can do is it has the autopilot will allow you to set a hover about 50 feet above the surface, and it will maintain that hover in that position. So if you get it into that position and you need to lift somebody up, everybody can focus on getting that person into a basket and up into the helicopter and not worry about physically flying the aircraft. So, some great features built into that search and rescue aspect is, maximizing the crew's ability to, do their job and not worry about what the helicopter's doing. It will take care of itself.
You got to believe that there's been a lot of people whose, that was the key thing that helped get them rescued, was the ability of the crew to concentrate on the rescue while the helicopter flew itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen some Coast Guard training videos of these guys, dumped out into the water and, searching, pulling people in. And I mean, that's some hard work they go through. Absolutely. They are highly trained people.
Yes,
it's just amazing.
And you mentioned about rescue divers. This helicopter does not have the capability to land on the water, does it?
It does not. The previous helicopter that it replaced, the Sea Guard, the MH-65, that one you could land on the water, but this one does not have that capability. So to get a swimmer in the water, I was watching some videos. They will bring the helicopter down to about 15 feet. And once the diver has given the okay that it's clear for him to jump, he gets tapped 3 times on the shoulder and off he goes into the, raging sea to go help somebody, hook up a line or whatever needs to be done. So these guys are insanely brave to dive into day or night, regardless of the weather. These guys are out there doing this job, and that's amazing.
Well, and you think about that downwash with the hovering helicopter right there has got to make it so choppy, of course, with everything else that they're trying to focus on doing and concentrate. And of course, somebody that is right there trying to be rescued, they don't want to hover right over them and nearly drown them with that downwash. So
exactly.
Goodness gracious.
So, yeah.
Now, I did not realize, and I should have, that the use of this helicopter in trying to make interdictions with smugglers, people who are trying to cross borders and things like that. So that this helicopter is armed. I did not realize that.
Exactly. I believe it was the C model was when they introduced that feature. They added a machine gun and a rifle to the it's called HITRON missions, HITRON missions, force from above. And it's exactly what it is they go out looking for smugglers, boats that are, not responding to commands or not stopping. And they have one of the crew members who's capable of taking that shot and hitting one of the engines and disabling a boat. So let's see, they've conducted over 800 interdictions and detained over 2,500 suspected smugglers.
Wow.
Since 1999. And I'm sure those numbers are much higher now because that information was a few years old. So, I mean, they've done that quite a bit. But, it's pretty impressive. You've got a moving boat that's going as fast as it can go and a helicopter chasing. And, you have to match the speed of the boat and somebody's going to take a shot and stop it.
Well, they have to know that's coming, and, they have to decide, well, I guess it's worth it to try to outrun this guy. But my gosh, I would not want to be facing it down, that's for sure.
Well, one of the things I read was there was a dolphin chasing a boat, some smuggling, and as they're watching the boat go, somebody is tossing packages over the side of the boat, which is obviously, drugs or something of that nature. And so they stop the boat, shoot the engine, stop the boat, and then they go back and they pick up the packages that they dumped out of the boat. So not only
Yeah.
were they stopping the boat, they were getting the evidence that these people were dumping into the water. So even if you think you're getting away with it, you're not going to get away with it.
Well, and plus they're also, I guess it's infrared filming or whatever. They got night vision where they're filming these guys and you can see everything that they're dumping. So they get it all tied together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that I first really became aware of this helicopter in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, because there were so many rescues after that disaster in New Orleans. There were so many rescues that were happening where people were being picked up off of the roofs of houses and in buildings, and these helicopters flying, and these were not folks who were stranded at sea. They were in a city, and they desperately needed help. And you thought, well, this is a versatile helicopter, and as you mentioned, it doesn't have great legs, but the ability of it to get in and pick up people and then drop them off somewhere safer, just 10 miles away or less, hospital or whatever it might be. It really seemed to me, anyways, it really kind of proved its value and its worth at that time. And so the type of rescue work that it does has definitely earned its chops. I mean, it's impressive with the interdiction stuff, but I mean, Coast Guard is there to keep us safe, and they do a whole lot of rescue work, and this is an important part of their arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the helicopter's been around since 1985, so it's had a long life with the Coast Guard. As a matter of fact, they are doing some upgrades and some service life extension programs. So this helicopter is scheduled to fly up until about 2037. So we got many years to come of seeing this plane fly around, this helicopter fly around.
Well, and the Coast Guard is the main user in the U.S., but I've seen this helicopter, this model helicopter, I guess, has been, there's some of these in private use, corporate use and things like that, right?
Yes, it's a very popular helicopter for the private use. As a matter of fact, the military, other militaries use it. There is a Eurocopter Panther, which is a troop transport helicopter. Obviously, the Dolphin for air and sea rescue. The EC-155 is your civilian version used for just, executive transport. And there's actually a Chinese license-built version called the Harbin Z9. So the Chinese are actually using this helicopter. That's, how much people like it. It's well used across the world. As a matter of fact, the last one was built in, was it 2022? January of 22 was when the last Dolphin was built. So they just recently stopped building them.
And it's a twin engine design, correct?
That is correct. Yes. Twin engine. Oh, that's an interesting thing. So when the Dolphin was chosen as the helicopter, they were using Aerospatiale Eurocopter were using a particular engine, and they had their own setup. Well, because of some American rules about things being made in America, they changed the engine to a Lycoming engine. And that was what the A model and B model used, but it was underpowered. And so the helicopter didn't perform as well as they needed it to. So by the time they got to the C model, they switched back to this, what was it called? I forgot what it was called. Timco? Is that what it was?
I don't recall.
Yeah, Turbomerica Aerocell 2C2 CG. So that was what originally came with the helicopter, but we didn't use it because of some rules that said we couldn't. And then once we realized that it wasn't going to work the way we wanted it to, we went back to it. So yes, twin engines. I think it's about 853 horsepower each one. So they're pretty hefty.
And pretty reliable too, with the dual engine setup and everything. And you think that with the role that it plays, where chances of getting water splashed on it, around it, all that kind of stuff. It's got to be pretty sturdy.
It is. It's
Good,
actually
reliable
got
system.
it's a you can fly it on a single engine as well. And if you look at the engine nacelles, the opening for the air, they have a big fence in front of it to catch any kind of debris that would fly up into it. So because they're flying so low to the ground all the time, I'm sure there's bird strikes and other things like that are a pretty big danger to that type of, search and rescue situation.
Now, if there's disaster relief or there's a storm going on, they're trying to fly and find people. There might be things flying around in the air, so that would definitely come in handy.
Absolutely.
What are some of the stats on this helicopter speed wise? I think you mentioned the range was just a couple hours, but speed wise, is it a fast bird?
It cruises at about 148 knots. Max speed is about 180. I've seen it as high as 200. So a couple of, under about 200 max, I think. Its range is about 350 nautical miles. So not a huge, again, short legs, but that's not its intended job. It's for short range.
It doesn't have any aerial refueling capability, does it?
No, it does not. And to be honest, I don't know that I've ever seen it with, external takes or anything attached. So I don't know that that's even a possibility. What is it? The height, it's about 13 feet, 3 inches tall. The rotors are about 39 feet around. So it's big, but it's not huge. That's the thing. It's a smaller helicopter.
So mostly this is, as we said, it's in U.S. Coast Guard service. Is it used by any of the American U.S. military at all outside the Coast Guard?
I did not see anything that mentioned it, so no, not that I'm aware of.
But Israel, I think I read, has used it militarily.
They did in the 80s and the 90s. I did not see anything that they are currently using it. So yes, it's in Israel, but not. I assume it's already been retired for something else, but I can't confirm or deny that.
Gotcha. And then I know you said they built the last Dolphin back 2022.
Correct.
And I was looking for the updated number on how many of these served with the Coast Guard.
I was a little over 100 is what I read. So not a huge amount, but again, they keep upgrading them, making them bigger and stronger. As a matter of fact, that service life extension program, they are updating structural components, the 9-degree frame canopy, center console floor assembly, floorboards, and side panels. So all of those things are going to be, new to the helicopter. One of the other things is this helicopter, 75% of the exterior parts, the rotor head, the rotor blades, and the fuselage are composed of corrosion-resistant materials. So, it's not just a metal helicopter. It's built to withstand the salt and corrosion that you're going to get around the ocean. So, it was well thought out when they were doing it that this is, it's going to be wet and salty. So let's build it with some materials that are going to stand up to that kind of punishment.
Absolutely.
I always think it's fascinating when you have an aircraft that's been in service for this length of time. You think that you have maybe grandfathers or fathers and sons who could be in the same unit who fly together or who flew these planes over the course of their history. I always like that kind of connection. And this is an aircraft that the orange color, of course, is a huge giveaway, and the Fenestron. But I mean, it's Coast Guard, and it's a fantastic thing. I've only watched them perform and do some training, I suppose. I've never had to be underneath waiting for one to come and pick me up or anything. And I've got to. You just have to know that, what a relief to know that these pros are coming to get you and a Dolphin.
Well, talking about that Finistron, that is a trademark name that they have for that part of the helicopter. It's a ducted fan, if you're familiar with that term. So it sucks air through that. It's like a tube into where the rotor is, and it's got about 11 blades in it. So it's a design feature that's, very sturdy. It's well protected. You're not going to get any bird strikes or anything like that to it. The only other issue with it is that it's an added weight, because you've got the shroud that goes around it and the extra parts. So you've got a little weight penalty, but you also get the benefit of the protection and the capability of it. It's, it's a pretty strong little tail rotor there.
Well, it's also, it's in a pretty tight space too.
Yes, it's very, very tight. That ducted fan, it's literally millimeters to the edges. It's a really tight, but it works.
Is that unique to the Dolphin, or do other helicopters have that as well?
No, there are other helicopters that have that, so it's not the only one.
Right. Okay.
I forget what the helicopter they used in Blue Thunder, but if you remember that movie from a long time ago, I'm pretty sure it had the same type of design. I'll have to go back and double check that, but. Yeah, but it seems to me like might have been the first time I saw one, and I thought, that is cool looking. Just something else. It is not a cotton candy maker, though, so kids, stay away.
No, absolutely not. Don't mess with it. But, like I said, it's got a unique sound. That ducted fan, it creates a whine that's different than your typical helicopter, and it's interesting to listen to.
Well, David, you mentioned that one of these was up in Bristol not long ago.
Okay, I figured out why it was here. So there is a facility in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, that does all the upgrades. That's where all the Coast Guard helicopters are going to be upgraded. So this was a West Coast helicopter, and it was flying cross country from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, back to the West Coast. And again, it's got shorter legs, so it's making more frequent stops. And for some reason, it chose Tri-Cities, and I got lucky and was able to get there in time and catch it departing. So that's why it was in this area.
I think they wanted to see the famous aerophile for themselves, because I
think you called ahead.
Yeah, your fame is spreading far and wide, no doubt. So
I wish they would call ahead and let me know. That would be wonderful.
Hey, so you guys out there listening, any squadron that's coming up to Bristol, just let give Dave a shout, let him know. He'll be glad to film and profile you and share it with all the world out there. So
I have actually spoken to some. We get the Navy's P-8 Poseidon very regularly at Tri-Cities. I've got well over 50 videos of Poseidons, but I've actually been in contact with a couple of crew members who have said, "Hey, were you shooting video on this day? Did you get my flight when I was there?" And as a matter of fact, I did a couple of times. So, that has actually happened. It's just not enough. I need more help.
There you go.
Well, next thing you know, Derrick, David's going to design his own mission patch for Aerophile that he'll start sharing and trading. So these guys are going to come. They're going to want to land up there in Bristol or at Tri-Cities and trade patches with them. So. Dave, I don't know what you're waiting for, buddy, but it's time.
Oh, time is the key. There's so little.
Heard that.
Definitely, for sure. And as we're talking about the MH-65 Dolphin or Dolphin, if I say that in my Southern way correctly, let's jump into closing thoughts, starting with you, David Rowe.
This helicopter is what you want to see if you're having issues out at sea, or, like we were talking about, a hurricane disaster. If you're in trouble, when that orange helicopter shows up, you've got the right people coming to help you. It's a fabulous machine. I was reading that it had reached 1 million flight hours in 2017, and currently it's over 1,780,000 flight hours. So, it's worked a lot. It's done a great job. And So, great to see. I can't wait to see another one. We're inland, so we don't get to see them often. One of the fun things I read was we were talking about it uses composite materials, so it's earned a couple of interesting nicknames: the Tupper Wolf, the Plastic Puppy, and the Mighty Little Frenchie. So it's a
I guess
fond,
that's for Airwolf.
Well, maybe so.
On Airwolf, maybe the Tupper
maybe
Wolf.
So.
That's fantastic.
Tupper Wolf.
Like
so
that.
There you go. Great helicopter, and really glad I got to see one up close.
Closing thoughts, Dave Gorman.
Well, I'll just pivot off of what David said. He used the word work, and that's what I associate this helicopter with. This is a working helicopter. And again, I've been fortunate to only see it for enjoyment, at air shows and things like that. And there are times in Michigan or in Oshkosh or other shows where they put on a performance. They show, how they maneuver and dropping people down on cables so they can rappel down to help out somebody who's in trouble. Those guys are pros, and our hats off from all of us, I know, to the Coast Guard, because again, you don't want to need these guys, but when you need them, you sure are glad to see them. And this is a helicopter that has proven its worth over and over for 40 years almost for the Coast Guard.
1985, I believe, was when it was introduced.
Well, incredible, and continuing to be upgraded. And our hats off to these brave crew and beautiful helicopter.
Definitely is. So let's jump into social media, guys. Starting with you, David Rowe. Social media.
Well, AEROWEPHILE, aerophile.com. And I have a good little announcement to make. I just reached 10,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. So that's a big milestone to reach. So very, very pleased with that. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have a website, aerophile.com. Lots of aviation photos and videos. Please come check me out.
Definitely. Mr. David Gorman, what about your social media for us today?
I am not quite to 10,000, but I am moving that way a little bit every day. So, but you can find me on YouTube at Gormania Videos. And it's, there's lots of aviation stuff up there, but also some live local music in the Knoxville area, stuff that I like and go see. You can find me on Instagram at _Dave, or it's Dave Gorman. Right there, I do have some pictures that I post from time to time of things from Oshkosh and around and all that kind of stuff. But would be thrilled to interact with folks and have you follow me or let me know to follow you if you got things that you want to share with us.
Definitely. And the History of Aviation podcast, we can be found just about anywhere. We have our own website that all these links are listed below. And Dave Gorman, we've got the group page for the History of Aviation podcast now.
We do. We have a Facebook page for the History of Aviation podcast. We would love to see a little bit more activity there. Comments on shows, suggestions for things, corrections. Yeah, Bruce, we know. Anything that you want to say, except you, Bruce. But Darren Wells, who's a local photographer, got to spend some time with a couple of times this year, but saw him when we went to go see Fifi come in. He's a follower. We have a lot of folks that pay attention to what's going on, but we'd love to have some feedback too. So check out that Facebook page. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a comment, would you?
Definitely. And we definitely would take it. And we're also on Instagram and Twitter and Patreon. Be sure and check out our Patreon page. We got some good deals over there for anybody that wants to support the show. It does cost money to produce and put this show out. Definitely enjoyed it, guys.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah.
A great helicopter there. I learned a lot.
Fantastic addition to our repertoire here.
Yeah, and
that's another
good to get the French Coast Guard.
That's it. That's another Definitely. French word.
Yeah,
repertoire.
There you go. Woo.
Oui.
Kind of like my French Neoport. that it was Newport the whole time? That's
well,
okay.
This is
all
a
right.
multicultural show.
Folks can go back and listen to the Newport episode and listen to me make a fool of myself. It's perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. What are you talking about?
Forever and ever.
I do it so well. Enjoyed it, guys. Appreciate it so much.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to History of Aviation Podcast, episode 29. Please rate, review, subscribe to the History of Aviation Podcast. Follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. For David Rowe, Dave Gorman, I'm Derrick Beeler. Thanks for listening to the History of Aviation Podcast.
This is Joe Morse. You are listening to the History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.